The sky above Arthax 9 burned with the glow of distant explosions, casting jagged shadows across the barren plains. Captain Elias Vorn crouched behind a fractured energy turret, his pulse hammering against the ribbed chest plate of his armor. The air was thick with the stench of scorched metal and ozone, and every distant boom carried the unmistakable weight of inevitability. Humanity's outpost was falling. "Elias, we can't hold them!" Sergeant Mara's voice crackled over comms. Her hand shook as she tried to reload the plasma rifle, sparks scattering from the weapon's barrel. "I know," Elias replied, voice low but firm. "Just keep moving. Don't let them pin you down. Fall back to the secondary perimeter." The ground trembled as Zytherian drones skittered over the rocky terrain, their metallic carapaces glinting with alien light. Each drone moved with synchronized precision, impossible for human reflexes to anticipate. The air vibrated with the hum of their grav engines. Elias gritted his teeth. He had faced impossible odds before, but this was different. A nearby turret exploded, sending shards of molten metal across the battlefield. Mara yelled, and Elias lunged forward, dragging her into a shallow crater. "We're outnumbered. Outgunned. Don't let them see fear." He muttered more to himself than her. A pulse of blinding energy streaked past them, searing the rock beside their feet. The drones were advancing, relentless, calculating. Elias' comms were alive with panicked voices. "Requesting reinforcements, any units." There were no reinforcements. Earth's fleet was miles away, caught in an ambush of Zytherian capital ships. Every second the outpost held was borrowed time, but that time was gone. Elias' squad had been decimated, 23 soldiers, reduced to 5, and now 2. He glanced at Mara, seeing the strain in her eyes mirrored his own exhaustion. "Elias, what now?" He swallowed, feeling the weight of command like a physical burden. For the first time in years of combat, the answer was unclear. They had fought with valor, with ingenuity, with every ounce of human tenacity, but the Zytherians didn't fight like humans. They were not predictable. They did not retreat. And they did not negotiate. Elias made the decision before fear could paralyze him. He raised his hand, palm open, toward the advancing swarm. "I surrender," he called out, voice carrying across the battlefield. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. The drones paused, their sensors scanning. Then a low, metallic resonance echoed through the plains, unlike any sound Elias had heard. It was not aggression, nor curiosity, it was recognition. "Human," the voice intoned, mechanical but layered with something almost sentient. "You are chosen." Elias froze. "Chosen? For what?" Mara's jaw slackened beside him. What?" Before either of them could react, the ground beneath them shifted. A beam of radiant light enveloped Elias, lifting him effortlessly, disorienting him as his surroundings blurred into an endless swirl of stars and energy. Mara reached out, but the light pulled him upward with inexorable force. The battlefield disappeared. The sounds of dying soldiers and exploding turrets faded into silence. Elias' stomach turned as he was transported into the belly of a colossal ship, its interior vast beyond comprehension. The walls shimmered with alien energy, flowing like liquid metal, pulsating as if alive. "Where am I?" Elias whispered, trying to regain footing on the smooth, gravity-neutral floor. His voice sounded small, fragile, swallowed by the ship's immense interior. "You are aboard the vessel of High Overlord Xyrix," the voice replied, now clearly emanating from every surface. "You survive. You have been selected. Understand the rules and you will command. Fail, and you will perish." Elias' mind raced. Command? Him? A human? The thought was absurd, almost comical. Yet the voice was unwavering, devoid of emotion, yet compelling. He looked around at the strange, fluid forms that moved in the shadows, Zytherian crew, humanoid but impossibly elongated, their segmented limbs glinting in alien light. They observed him with silent scrutiny. "You expect me to, what? Lead your fleet?" Elias asked, incredulous. I barely survived my own command back on Earthax. Your species is anomalous, the voice intoned. Adaptable. Resourceful. Resilient. Traits worthy of integration. You will learn or you will die. Elias took a deep breath. Panic threatened to overtake him, but he grounded himself. If there was one thing humanity had proven time and again, it was that when trapped, cornered, and outmatched, it could improvise. It could survive. And sometimes it could thrive. Fine, he said finally, voice steady. If you want me to lead, I need to understand your systems, your fleet, your objectives. You want obedience? I'll give it, but on terms that make sense. There was silence. Then the ship itself responded, the tone almost approving. Agreed. You will begin the trial. Trial. Elias didn't know what awaited him, but he understood one thing clearly. This was no longer about survival alone. It was about seizing the impossible, bending it to human ingenuity, and finding leverage in a universe that had written him off. As the ship's corridors opened before him like veins of living metal, Elias felt the first spark of a thought he hadn't allowed himself on the battlefield. Maybe this is our chance, not just to survive, but to turn the hunters into the hunted. Mara's voice crackled faintly through a residual calm channel. Elias, I don't know if you're alive, he said quietly, voice almost to himself. But if I survive this, I'll come back for you. The light dimmed around him as he was guided deeper into the ship. Shapes moved in the periphery, alien officers observing, calculating, waiting for him to falter. Every step was a test. Every breath, a statement. Elias clenched his fists. Humanity had been on the brink of extinction today, but Elias Vorn was alive. And now, aboard an enemy ship that could crush worlds, he had a new battlefield, one where human cunning might be the deadliest weapon of all. And as the ship hummed beneath his feet, he raised his head, scanning the corridors ahead. If they want a captain, they'll get one. But they won't get one who plays by their rules. For the first time in days, Elias smiled. The corridors of the Zythurian ship pulsed like a living organism, walls flowing in rhythmic patterns of light and shadow. Captain Elias Vorn moved cautiously, each step deliberate. He had survived a battlefield designed for human extinction, only to find himself in a domain that made war on logic itself. The ship's AI, a voice without form but full of presence, guided him. You will learn to command human. First, understand the structure. Elias studied the holographic projection materializing before him. It displayed a fleet formation of alien vessels, each glowing node representing a ship. Lines connected them in geometric patterns that shifted with uncanny precision. Even a fleet of Earth's most advanced warships would seem like children's toys against this system. Explain the controls, Elias demanded. I need to know what I'm actually commanding. The AI's tone was indifferent. You must learn by engagement. The fleet will test your aptitude. Survival is the measure of leadership. A section of the corridor opened into a command deck, vast and circular. Alien officers stood in rigid formation, limbs segmented and glimmering, eyes, if they could be called that, studying him with unnerving intensity. Human, one of them hissed, voice like metal scraping glass. You enter a realm where hesitation equals death. You will demonstrate understanding. Elias squared his shoulders. I don't know your rules, but I know strategy. I've commanded human fleets, and I've won battles against impossible odds. I'll adapt. The officers' heads tilted, almost imperceptibly. The AI's voice chimed again. You will now face your first trial. A reconnaissance squadron has engaged hostiles without reporting. Salvage the situation with minimal loss. Within seconds, the deck displayed a live feed of the fleet. Smaller Zythurian frigates were engaged with an unknown alien patrol. Their formation was breaking, some ships were already disabled. Human intuition told Elias that a direct approach would result in more loss than gain. He examined the fleet schematics. Form a pincer from nodes Delta 3 and Epsilon 4. Pull them back to intersect at 092 degree vector. Fire concentrated energy pulses, not continuous streams. Focus strikes reduce collateral damage. A ripple passed through the alien officers. The AI acknowledged. Command input accepted. Elias' fingers danced over the holographic interface. Ships accelerated, banking in arcs that defied conventional physics yet obeyed the logic of the fleet. The recon squadron was rescued with surgical precision. Casualties were minimal. The alien officers observed silently, analyzing every decision. "You improvise," one said finally, almost admiringly. "Your species, unpredictable." Elias allowed himself a small smirk. "Unpredictable is a human specialty." The AI's voice resonated again. "Your adaptability is noted. Yet unpredictability is dangerous within our hierarchy. You will now face another test." A sudden shift in the ship's gravity caught him off guard. The walls rippled, and the entire command deck reoriented. Simulation pods descended, holographic battlefields materializing. Alien fleets were arrayed for attack, Elias' fleet at the center, dozens of squadrons threatening from every vector. "Simulation," the AI intoned. "Your fleet is outnumbered. You will survive. Leadership will be assessed." Elias exhaled slowly. The scenario was brutal. In any human simulation, he would have devised a frontal assault. Here, every choice carried cascading consequences he barely understood. But humans had a weapon the Zytherians could not predict: intuition. He analyzed weak points, small gaps in fleet formations where their own weapons overlapped and neutralized each other. "Pull the outer nodes back," he ordered. "Simulate retreat. Lure them into overlapping fire zones. Concentrate fire at 045-degree axis. Then pivot Delta 7 for flanking maneuver." Ships obeyed. The alien fleets collided with each other, energy streams crossing and dissipating in spectacular arcs. Zytherian officers leaned forward. Elias felt the weight of every decision, every loss was on him. Yet through improvisation and observation, the simulation ended with his fleet intact, enemy squadrons severely weakened. The silence that followed was heavy. Then the AI spoke, almost approvingly. "You learn quickly. But understanding is not enough. Loyalty is required." A corridor opened, revealing a chamber of alien officers. Some observed him with suspicion, others with curiosity bordering on reverence. "Human," one hissed. "You command without allegiance to Zytherian order. We watch for weakness. Disloyalty will be punished." Elias met their gaze. "Loyalty isn't blind obedience. It's earned. You'll see my results before questioning my intentions." A soft metallic click echoed through the chamber. A holographic map appeared, detailing recent human outpost coordinates. High Overlord Xyrix had moved against multiple colonies while Elias had been absent. The ship's AI projected the moral dilemma: intervene directly and risk exposure, or strategize to minimize casualties with indirect strikes. Elias' mind raced. The stakes were not just his survival, but entire human populations. He chose the latter, crafting a strategy using minimal direct contact, sabotage of supply lines, selective targeting of Zytherian drones, diversionary attacks to buy human colonies time. "This is unexpected," one officer muttered. "Humans do not reason like this. They calculate, unpredictably and with empathy." Empathy. Elias' advantage. Humans could anticipate moral choices. Zytherians calculated probability and outcomes. That gap in logic would be his edge. Hours passed, but the ship's AI treated them as mere minutes. Tests continued: command trials, combat scenarios, alien politics, and loyalty assessments. Each success strengthened Elias' authority. Crew members began seeking his guidance, albeit cautiously. Some whispered in the shadows, "Perhaps he is the captain the AI chose." By the end of the cycle, Elias stood on the observation deck, staring out at the endless void of stars. Below him, the alien fleet shimmered like a constellation of lethal intent. The trials had not ended, but one thing was clear: he was no longer just a human prisoner. He was a commander. And with command came leverage. The AI's voice interrupted his thoughts. Tomorrow, you will face internal dissent. A faction questions your authority. You must maintain order or perish. Elias turned to the nearest officer, eyes burning with quiet defiance. Then we'll see whose unpredictability wins. Humans don't bow easily. And neither do I. A murmur of metallic clicks and hisses passed through the observation deck. Some officers shifted uncomfortably. Some were intrigued. For the first time aboard the alien vessel, Elias felt a spark of possibility. He had survived the battlefield of Arthax 9. Now, he would survive the battlefield within the fleet itself. And when the right moment came, he would turn this power into a weapon for humanity. The trials had begun. But Captain Elias Vorn had never been one to follow the rules, not entirely. The void outside the ship stretched endlessly, stars scattered like shards of glass against black velvet. Captain Elias Vorn stood on the observation deck, staring at the alien constellation of vessels under his command. Every pulse of energy from the fleet beneath him was a reminder. He was no longer a soldier fighting from the shadows, he was a commander aboard a ship that could annihilate worlds. And yet, the weight of responsibility pressed heavier than any weapon he had ever carried. The AI's voice interrupted his thoughts. High Overlord Xyrix prepares to deploy against multiple human colonies. Intelligence indicates complete annihilation is imminent. Your fleet is capable of interception, but caution is advised. Elias' jaw tightened. Then we intercept. But we don't just fight. We undermine. We buy time. Humanity doesn't surrender, even when the odds are impossible. An alien officer, one who had grown cautiously respectful of Elias over the past cycles, approached. Human, your reasoning is illogical. Why risk personal command to intervene? Why protect a species you barely control? Elias studied him, noting the faint shimmer in the alien's segmented limbs, curiosity, a human trait he recognized despite its alien form. Because their survival matters. Empathy is not weakness. It's strategy. If you understand the enemy only through cold calculation, you miss the human factor. And humans adapt. We survive when the improbable becomes inevitable. The officer paused, emitting a low, contemplative hum. Your species confounds expectations. Elias smirked. We do that. The bridge hummed as the fleet shifted into formation. Elias accessed the holographic overlays, mapping Xyrix's projected strikes. Colonies on the fringe of human space were already under siege, and the Xytherian fleet moved with brutal efficiency. Evasive maneuvers first, Elias ordered, to shield civilian transports. Then selective strikes on supply vessels. Do not engage directly with capital ships. Use swarm drones and orbital disruption fields. Minimal casualties, maximum delay. The alien officers exchanged glances, clearly debating the unconventional approach. The AI interjected. Strategy acknowledged. Probability of success, 37%. Elias shook his head. Probability is a guideline, not a limit. Humans make their own odds. And then, as predicted, the first engagement began. Xytherian strike wings approached, energy streams cutting through the void with lethal precision. Elias' fleet executed the maneuvers flawlessly, ships darting like shadows, drones flanking, supply lines disrupted. Entire sectors of the enemy formation collided with one another in confusion. Amid the chaos, Elias' voice cut across the comms. Delta 4, pivot at Vector 084. Epsilon 7, support flank. Concentrate fire on energy cores, disable without destruction. Human lives protected. The officers observed in stunned silence. None had anticipated such precision paired with moral consideration. The AI noted. Human methodology, unpredictable yet effective. For the first time, Elias felt the thrill of command, not for conquest, but for something higher, the survival of his species. Hours later, he accessed intercepted communications from Xyrix's flagship. The messages were fragmented but chilling. Multiple human colonies were slated for eradication, entire systems reduced to ash. The scale was incomprehensible. Elias realized that direct confrontation was inevitable. High Overlord Xyrix underestimates humans, he muttered. And that's where we strike. One of the alien officers hissed in surprise. You plan to challenge him? Directly? Yes, Elias said, voice steady. We lure him into a trap he won't anticipate. Xytherians calculate outcomes based on predictable behavior. We are unpredictable. We will make him commit errors. The officer clicked his segmented limbs. Such audacity, dangerous. Dangerous keeps us alive, Elias replied. The next test came not from the enemy fleet, but from within. Rumors of dissent had spread, alien officers who still questioned his authority. Elias gathered his trusted lieutenants, both human and alien aligned. Some of your crew believe a human cannot command, Elias said, eyes scanning the room. Let them doubt. Let them question. I do not fear scrutiny. I fear inaction. You follow me because we succeed together, or fail together. Not because I am human, but because we are the fleet. A tense silence followed. Then, one of the dissenters, a sharp-eyed alien officer, spoke. If your strategy fails, all perish. You gamble with lives you do not understand fully. And if I don't act? Elias countered. All die anyway. At least this way, we create a chance. And humans, we don't gamble without calculation. We predict, adapt, and exploit. That is how we survive. Murmurs ran through the room. The officer studied him for a long moment, then inclined his head. Respect, hard-earned, glimmered through alien skepticism. The final stage of the mission approached, an engagement near the edge of Xytherian-controlled space, where Xyrix himself was rumored to oversee operations. Elias' fleet approached stealthily, using gaps in enemy sensors to mask their movement. Prepare for direct engagement, Elias ordered. But remember, this is not just a battle. It is a message. Humanity does not submit. As the fleet closed in, Elias accessed the ship's internal systems, integrating alien drones with human tactics. Shields pulsed in anticipation, weapon systems hummed with readiness. Every alien officer under his command waited, some anxious, some curious. Vector Delta 6, Elias said. Focus energy on DQ channels. Draw them into our trap. We'll strike at the command nexus, where Xyrix coordinates. Disrupt him, and we fracture their control. The fleet moved like a single organism, yet guided by human intuition. Calculations that Xytherians would never make, unpredictable yet precise, dictated every maneuver. In the observation deck, Elias watched as the first Xytherian ships entered the trap. Energy streams collided with their own reinforcements. Confusion spread through the enemy formation like wildfire. And in that moment, Elias realized a simple truth: the unpredictable human mind, guided by empathy and ingenuity, could turn the tide against even the most calculating enemy. The ship's AI finally acknowledged, almost reverently. Human, your methods defy logic, yet they succeed. The probability of victory rises. Elias allowed himself a small, sharp grin. Then let's keep defying them. Humanity survives, and humans don't bow. Not today, not ever. He turned to his officers, eyes burning with determination. Tomorrow, we go deeper. To the heart of Xyrix's empire. Every system, every fleet, if we play this right, we can strike at the source. And we will. A murmur of clicks and hisses swept through the observation deck, this time with anticipation rather than skepticism. Elias Vorn had survived Arthax 9. He had mastered the ship. Now, he was ready to challenge the High Overlord himself, and humanity's survival hung on his every decision. The heart of the Xytherian Empire awaited. And Captain Elias Vorn would not be intimidated. The void ahead of the fleet shimmered with the looming presence of Xyrix's flagship, a massive citadel of living metal, its surface pulsing with lethal energy, thrumming like a heartbeat of the Empire itself. Captain Elias Vorn stood on the observation deck, eyes fixed on the vessel that had orchestrated the destruction of countless human colonies. Every instinct in his body screamed caution. Every calculation in his mind screamed opportunity. Today, Elias muttered under his breath. Humans don't bow. The alien officers around him, those who had once doubted his authority, now followed his every command without hesitation. The dissenters had been silenced not by force, but by results. Humanity's adaptability had proven itself. Deploy the decoy channels, Elias ordered. Make them believe we are scattered and uncoordinated. Then pivot Delta 7 and Gamma 4 for the flanking maneuver. Keep shields at 50% to lure their energy weapons. Precision strikes only, do not waste firepower. The fleet responded like a single organism, moving with eerie synchronization, yet guided by the human mind's unpredictability. Xytherian scouts approached, energy pulses cutting through the void like lightning. Elias' voice was calm but resolute. Hold fire until they commit. Then strike. Seconds stretched into eternity. Then, as predicted, the enemy fired, overconfident in their calculated supremacy. Shields absorbed the initial volleys, and Elias triggered the pivot. Flanking squadrons moved with lightning speed, slicing through the Xytherian formation at angles no algorithm had predicted. Ships collided, energy streams crossed, and the flagship's defenses began to falter. Concentrate on the nexus, Elias commanded. Every drone, every ship, focus fire on their command center. We disable Xyrix's control and fracture the fleet. The alien officer's segmented limbs clicked in acknowledgement, coordinating maneuvers with mechanical precision and human ingenuity. The battlefield was chaos, but it was a controlled chaos, one only a human mind could orchestrate in a universe designed for perfect order. Amid the battle, the ship's AI spoke, almost reverently. Human, your methods continue to defy logic. Probability of victory exceeds expectation. Elias allowed a brief smile. Then let's finish this. Xyrix's flagship pulsed with energy, responding to the assault. A sudden surge of gravitational waves rocked Elias' ship. Alarm screamed. Alien officers struggled to maintain control. Elias gritted his teeth. Counter the surge! Distribute power to stabilizers! Keep formation! His voice cut through the chaos like steel. A breach opened in the flagship's hull, and an emissary of Xyrix appeared, projected as a shimmering, colossal form. Its voice boomed across the void, dripping with disdain. Human, you dare challenge me? You survive only by accident. You are insignificant. Elias stepped forward, voice calm but icy. Insignificant? Perhaps to you. But humans survive where logic fails. And today, your arrogance will be your undoing. The emissary laughed, a sound that rattled the hull. Do you truly believe your species can contend with Xytherian might? You are but a fleeting anomaly. Elias' eyes narrowed. Anomalies are what topple empires. With a flick of his wrist, he signaled a concentrated strike. Delta 7 and Gamma 4 squadrons moved in perfect synchronization, targeting energy conduits with surgical precision. Drones infiltrated the flagship's systems, sabotaging shields and communications from within. The flagship shuddered violently. Energy streams collapsed inward, and sections of the vessel erupted in controlled explosions. Xyrix's voice screamed in rage, distorted across multiple frequencies. Elias' fleet pressed the advantage, cutting through the enemy formation with relentless efficiency. Yet amid the victory, he maintained discipline. Human lives and Xytherian officers who chose cooperation were spared, their survival a testament to strategic morality. A human touch Xytherians could not compute. The final confrontation drew near. Elias maneuvered his ship alongside the flagship, preparing for direct boarding. A squad of human-aligned alien officers stood at the ready. You lead, one whispered. We follow. Elias nodded. Then let's end this. They breached the flagship's inner sanctum. The corridors pulsed with energy, alive, responding to every movement. And there, in a chamber of undulating light and metal, stood Xyrix, the embodiment of calculated supremacy, towering and ageless. You persist, Xyrix intoned, voice like molten metal. Human, you will be assimilated or destroyed. Elias raised his weapon, not to kill, but to demonstrate resolve. I don't surrender. And I don't follow rules written for cowards. Humanity adapts. And today, you learn it the hard way. Xyrix surged forward, energy crackling, but Elias anticipated patterns no algorithm could predict. He leveraged the ship's systems, channeling energy pulses against Xyrix's own control nodes. The High Overlord staggered, momentarily destabilized by tactics born of intuition, morality, and improvisation, the essence of humanity. The alien officers hesitated, watching in awe. The impossible was unfolding. A human was dictating the outcome of the Zytherian Empire. Elias seized the moment. With a calculated strike, he disrupted the flagship's core, fragmenting the control network. Zytherian fleets faltered, energy surges colliding and disabling multiple vessels simultaneously. The flagship shuddered, then fell silent. Xyrix glared, defeated yet unbroken. You are anomalous. And humans survive, Elias replied. We endure. We adapt. And we never bow. The aftermath was quiet, but the silence was victory. Zytherian forces, now leaderless and fractured, withdrew. Humanity's colonies were spared, thanks to the calculated intervention of a single human commander. Alien officers who had doubted Elias now bowed, not in fear, but in respect. The AI's voice, once cold and indifferent, resonated with approval. Human, your methodology exceeds expectation. You are worthy. Elias exhaled, looking out at the stars, fleet intact and human colonies safe. For a brief moment, he allowed himself to feel triumph, not just for survival, but for ingenuity, resilience, and the unyielding spirit of humanity. He turned to the remaining alien officers. This isn't the end. It's a beginning. You will follow me, not because I am human, but because I command with clarity, with purpose, and with results. Together we rebuild. Together we strike back. A murmur of agreement swept through the command deck. For the first time, humans and aliens worked in unison, not out of fear, but out of respect and shared vision. And somewhere, deep in the void, Xyrix's influence had been fractured, a testament to the power of unpredictability, morality, and human ingenuity. Captain Elias Vorn had survived the impossible. He had commanded the alien fleet, outwitted an immortal foe, and shown that humanity, no matter how small, how underestimated, was a force to be reckoned with. The stars stretched endlessly before him, and Elias raised his head, voice steady. Humanity doesn't bow. And today, we've reminded the universe why.